I mean, you can see the difference.
Yeah.
You know.
No, it looks a lot different compared to when we picked it up. It was all chalky.
I'm telling you, you can't do anything with that. But that, remember, had that like some round
like
sticker and whatever.
And like blackness to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I got that. Like these are just, they're just.
Let's get it started. Here we have a 1999 Suzuki Carry. You'll learn a lot about this one versus the one that I have. And don't worry, I'm gonna make a comparison video on my Carry versus this Carry. But this one's a very simple work truck. I want to specify that it is a work truck, work Kei truck. It's not a turbo, it's not anything fancy, but a work truck. So I heard that most people want to see my face a little bit more. I don't know why, but I guess I got a beautiful face. But I'm going to try and show my face a little more in these videos. I'm going to try and keep it dirty and clean at the same time. I don't know what that means, but let's get to it. Very simple, very nice work truck, work Kei truck. So Savi, the guy who had the Vamos, who did a video on not too long ago, this is another one. One day Savi came up to me. He owns a really nice Honda Acti truck, which is put away for the winter. He's done it up really nicely, but he had a good experience doing that one. He wanted to do a couple more, and he said, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring to see if I can make some money doing this. And I said, anybody can make money doing this off imports. It's not easy, but it's not hard. Anybody can do it. You can also lose a ton of money on it. But he said, hey, what do you think of this one? And this just happened to come up on Be Forward, and I said, I don't know. And I'll tell you why I said I don't know. Because this was just like my first Carry ever, except one thing. And I'll show you that in a minute. But I said, sure. So he got the Vamos, he got this, he got the Skyline. And then he also had what he wants to match his Acti truck, which he wants to make it like, what's it called? Initial D with the wrapping and all that. But getting sidetracked here. So this is Savi's truck. It is for sale. I believe it's $6,500. I will confirm with that. And if it's not correct, then I'll put it in the video there. But my first Kei truck was a 1994 Suzuki Carry round light. So if you know the round lights, it was 4-speed, 2-wheel drive, no AC. This one here is 2-wheel drive, 5-speed, no AC. So some might say, well, that's kind of terrible. And some might be right. It is kind of a terrible thing, but not really. Having no AC isn't the end of the world. It depends where you live. If you're in Florida, okay, totally understand it. You can totally agree, and I can agree with you that you need AC. Subtle features on these things are very, very subtle. That's it. You have heat, you have natural air package, you have to switch in between going in and coming out, and then you have everything else that a regular Carry would have, except you don't have the AC. Then you have a radio. Savi's happen to come with just an AM radio, which is very standard on these Kei trucks. When they come from Japan, if they're work trucks, which this is a work truck, they don't come with anything but an AM radio. And because it's an AM radio, it comes with this radio that's here, and the speaker's literally built into the radio because you're only supposed to get AM stations. And when I'm telling you it's base model, it's base model. So Savi pulled these off. He put speakers, he ran wires for the speakers, and he put this awesome built-in radio that does Apple CarPlay. And I'm not sure if it does Android Auto, but chances are it probably does. This was what I call a Ching Chong China. Excuse my language if that offends you. I'm sorry. Maybe you're watching the wrong channel. But it is a Chinese radio that he says that seems to be working okay. Let's see if we just turn the key to kind of start it up, what it shows us. HD MP5. Something very simple, very Chinese. You could tell just because it's very subtle. It's nothing fancy. But he's on a phone call actually. But it works. It's a double din for a work truck like this. This works great. If you want fancy, you obviously don't get the work truck edition, and you just get something more. I will probably keep referencing back to my Carry versus this. I'm going to try and minimize that because, again, I'm going to do a comparison video between my Carry and this Carry, and I just wanted to show this truck itself. Now, when Savi got it, it was in not rough shape, but it was worked with, meaning it didn't look the prettiest. So Savi took it. The bumper is pretty faded. As you can tell, Savi revived it. Shout out to the chemical guys because they have this awesome, like, trim shine that you can put, and it totally revives the entirety of the bumper, which in this case they have a non-matched colored bumper. So non-colored bumper, I should say. It's just a base plastic bumper is all it is. You have steel wheels, and in this case, let's see what size these are. In this case, they are 12-inch wheels and 12-inch tires. So much smaller than the 15-inch tires than what my Carry comes with. But again, it is a work truck. Now, the cool thing about this truck is that it is two-wheel drive. So it's very simple. Now you might say, why is that cool? Well, I'm trying not to get sidetracked when I make this video, but here's why it's cool. It's cool because of the fact that you don't have anything robbing you of power. The truck is so much lighter than a four-wheel drive truck, and you don't have to worry about four-wheel drive. You don't have to worry about AC, which means this thing flies. So you could tell the difference of this pumpkin versus if you watched my Carry video, what it had here. And this is interesting. Now I see what would have gone here. Tiny little exhaust, beautiful, very clean, very simple. Drum brakes in the rear. You got single leaf springs. You got your reverse light, you got your tail lights, and look, you have a plate holder here along with an LED light. Well, a light. I don't know if he's converted to LED light, but very simple things going on back here. Normally, you would see the transfer case over there. In this case, there is no transfer case because it is direct transmission coming right to the rear. So, very nice, very simple. Two-wheel drive, nothing crazy, nothing fancy. And it flies because it's a two-wheel drive. When I had my 94 Carry, that thing flew down the highway. It was a 4-speed. But let me tell you, it's like, you would just need to drive it. I think mine only had, same thing, was 120 kilometers on the dash as well. And I was bouncing off of that. Now, it was screaming down the road. And because mine was a 4-speed, I couldn't have the 5th gear to get it to go a little faster or to not scream as much. This one happens to have 5 gears, which is really nice. I think that's a big plus. Other things you would notice that makes it a work vehicle in Japan is that the bed obviously has been worked with. There was a lot of things back here. What they were in Japan, I really do not know, but it's really cool. Most of the time what they use these trucks in Japan was for cargo that they would bring from their farm over to the market. So these would be farmed to market trucks so that you could fill it with whatever it was that you had to fill it with. So standard Kei truck, pop these open, and they open. And if you notice, they don't have the little chains that mine has. It's probably subtle features like that that differentiated the base model trucks versus the full model trucks. But what's really nice about this one is that it's whole. What I haven't showed you, the coolest feature about this, is that most of the time these trucks are very low mile trucks. So in this case, this happens to have 16,337,000 kilometers. Now, the downside is it does say that it maxes out at 120. We'll have to test that. We'll have to take that for a test drive, but it may not. Now, again, what's cool about these, they're kind of an open slate for you to really do whatever it is that you want. In this case, Savi added a double din, a simple double din that does the job. Nothing crazy, not an A-Toto, not a Pioneer, nothing that would cost or break the bank. He put some speakers in here. He did subtle things like an LED light bulb in there. He put Peppa the Pig here. Very simple. And that's it. And the other things you can do that's simple, easy mods would be putting in tints on all the windows, even the windshield. I know that's illegal, but some people do it. But what's nice is all his dash parts are clean. There's no scratches. There's nothing here. This seat was probably never sat on because, again, it was just somebody that had this truck to go to the market. Now, another interesting feature about this truck, which is kind of nuts, I was surprised about this truck because I was under the assumption that all 99s came fuel injected. Well, let me tell you that this one is not fuel injected. I think this was the base of the base models that they offered because it is the only 99 that I am aware of as of right now currently that has a carburetor. Why it has a carburetor, I'm not sure. Sometimes what they did was these split years where it was going from, changing body styles and everything, they would keep simple stuff like this. And so this might have fallen under the split year where it was just very basic and it had carburetor, 5-speed, 2-wheel drive, no AC. So whoever bought this wanted the base of the base, and they got the base of the base. I think I'm really surprised that Japan doesn't do things like not add a seat here because it costs too much money. But this is really where you can kind of see where manufacturers try and save costs to offer you the best pricing for the truck so that you can get into whatever it is that you need to do, which I think is pretty cool if you really think about it, because nowadays you get trucks here in America, and I think the cheapest truck you can get in America, and I might be wrong, I mean, you can buy used, but I'm saying new, I think, is like over $50,000, which is nuts. For a work truck, why would I pay $50,000 for a work truck when I could pay $6,500 for this work truck? And that's probably the mentality that they had in Japan. So the spark plugs are under here, which is interesting because I think they have coils. Maybe I'm wrong. Comment below. I don't see any injectors on here. I see what looks to be like a carburetor, but maybe I'm really stupid and I don't see something specific that says, no, this is not carbureted and this is actually fuel injected. But normally you would see the injector somewhere over here, but it looks like this is what goes directly to the carburetor. But maybe Savi and I are wrong, and maybe somebody knows something that we don't know. Very simple under here. You have a battery, you have your engine, and you have your gear shifter. Subtle features that you know it's a base model. It gets very surprising that that mat is there and this mat is here. On mine, it has a mat that goes fully across, so it's very, very different than this. Normally, you would just see it with just this part right here, which is just the vinyl that covers it, and that's it. But then, obviously, you don't have the AC, so you don't have any of the AC line running from there into it and whatnot. You just have your simple air box here where that's all you have, and that's it. And then just one that connects from the outside in. So very, very simple, nothing crazy. Once I show you mine, you can kind of see the comparison. No moldings here to cover up the shock towers or anything like that. What's kind of interesting to me is they all kind of shared these same seats. They didn't give anything fancy for the seats. They actually even share the same print. I don't know if that was a thing or that just might have been a thing because somebody swapped out seats from this over to mine or something, but yes. Door card's very simple, very thin. This is probably Homosote or very thin cardboard essentially that's wrapped in vinyl and has, you know, manual crank windows. I don't even know if they came with power windows, to be honest with you. These are things that, you know, I'm kind of learning these newer 99s. What's really nice is this headliner is actually in really good condition. But again, this was a work vehicle, and being a work vehicle, you got your sun visor for the driver and you don't have one for the passenger, which is very interesting. What else can I tell you about this truck? I guess let's just open it up on the hood and see if we see any subtle differences. Again, nothing on the buttons here because it's a work vehicle, nothing crazy. Same thing, weird hood prop where they decided to put them on these carries. It's weird that you even have a hood. I don't understand why they did the whole hood thing. I think everybody was transitioning to hoods except the mini cabs. The mini cabs don't have a hood, and it's really funny because it looks like they have a cutout for the hood, but they don't. You just have your simple wiper motor, you have your washer fluid, you have your coolant, you have your radiator. Interesting place for where to place the jack and whatnot. And then you have your brake fluid reservoir, and that's it. Nothing really else there to write about. You see the brake lines that are going in probably into, I don't know what that would go into, because the brake booster, I guess it loops around and goes, you know what, maybe the brake booster is inside and this is just the fill, or that also might be for the clutch. But then this looks to be like for your heater core hoses. This is probably where the AC stuff came out. Again, when I do the comparison video, I'll be able to show that a little bit more. But if we look under the nice thing again, because it's such low miles, didn't get used very much. You can tell that it's a two-wheel drive by the way that it is, because it doesn't have axles in the front. Nothing under here, no diff or anything. Very simple, but you could tell where they made the space to potentially have a diff if you needed a diff. Tow hook there, tow hook there. Very simple under here, your steering shaft and all that. So yeah, I mean, nothing really to write home about. It is a very simple work truck. In my opinion, this truck is perfect for somebody that's trying to get into the K world and trying to experience a K truck. And if they want to get into a K truck, this would be very simple. Can you find a cheaper truck elsewhere? Sure. Can you find it with such low miles and certain amenities like the radio and the Speakers? Yeah, probably. But this truck, in my opinion, is perfect for somebody that wants to go to the grocery store and just have enough room in the back to be able to put a piece of wood or lumber in the back and not spend a ton of money and not really care about any of the things that are going to go into this because it is a work vehicle. You do, however, have the potential, because there is a following of all these K cars and the influx of them being brought over to the US, that you could buy rims and tires, because this does share the lug pattern of a 4x100. So meaning you can pretty much get a lot of different tires. You could probably get rims and tires stateside off of a Miata that would fit this, and it would work perfectly and it would look good. So you can get a cool truck that does function, that does what it does, 5-speed, no AC, with a cool radio and a simple bed in the back, and still have a ton of fun. This would be great for like a business. This, in my opinion, if you have a pool business, this would be perfect for it, because you would hope that your employees are smart enough to be able to drive 5-speed manuals, and you could just put all your pool equipment in the back and put around town and get to all your clients' accounts and everything. And sometimes you might be even able to put this in the back, and it's got a simple amenity like a radio and speakers and a seat and all the things that you need to be able to do. I think this video might be a little controversial, because people will say, oh no, that's too expensive and this and that. That's okay, that's your opinion. But being that this was my first truck, it does have a soft spot in my heart, because I think it's really cool. I actually think it's cooler than my truck because of the fact that it's 5-speed, not 4-speed. That being said, I think it's a cool truck. Savi is very motivated to move this one. He wants to sell this one. I told him, let me make a video just about this truck, and then I'll make a video about comparing the two trucks and their differences. And you'll notice differences, but again, those are more amenities or options than you actually really need. But at the end of the day, you'll have a reliable truck that runs and drives and does what it needs to do. Anything beyond that, I think you then would start looking at a turbo car or a turbo truck or Honda Acti or a million other different choices. But the nice part is, if you're looking for affordability and low miles and reliability, I think the Suzuki is the perfect one. Just because Savi has done, I believe he did an oil change. I believe he's doing, what's it called? I think he might have done the spark plugs on this one too, because they weren't running really well. And like I've said in the past before, when you get cars from Japan, they sit so long at the port and wherever, like from the auction, from whoever owned it. If it's sat, obviously clearly it's sat for a while, because it has 16,000 kilometers on it, and then it goes to the auction, it sits there, and then once it finally gets auctioned off, someone buys it. In this case it was B-Ford, and B-Ford buys it, and then Savi buys it. It's several months before it actually gets onto the ship, and then it gets here. In that time, it's enough time for old gas and spark plugs and everything to get fouled, and it usually doesn't run right. One of the things he did run into that I actually started to see more common on these carries is that there was an alternator issue. Now, we didn't know whether it was the alternator or whether it was just the belt. So, of course, in this case, luckily, it was just the belt, because what happens to rubber, we all know science, it deteriorates. So that rubber belt was probably never replaced. There are service records in this one. That's one cool thing that the Japanese love to do. They love to give you a big booklet of it. So there is service records for it. It was probably 4 oil changes. At the time, whoever owned it, they probably didn't want to change the belts, and that's why you ran into the issue with the belt. We found one stateside that's temporarily works, but then this is the correct belt, which I'm sure Savi will throw as part of the deal. The one that's on there temporarily works, and it's doing its job. What else can I say about this truck? I think it's just a very cool, boring truck. None of that makes sense. That's okay. But if you're looking for a cool, boring truck that you have a lot of potential with, I think this is the truck for you. I think the selling factor for me is that it's a 5-speed. That means you could just pretty much go. I think if this was turbo, I think it'd be really cool. They do sell these 2-wheel drive turbos with AC and all that, but just standard amenities, nothing crazy to write home about. I don't know, comment below, what do you think? Would you buy this one, or would you spend more money and buy that one? I think it really comes down to where your budget is and what you're doing with it. I think this one might attract more people if it was automatic, because I believe automatic would attract a different kind of clientele. Maybe a young person that does not know how to drive stick, or a business owner that his employees don't know how to drive stick, but they do know how to drive automatic. This would be perfect for it. I did sell a Hi-Jet to a customer before that she loved it because it was automatic, and I was actually genuinely surprised. Anyways, the next video will be comparing the two carries, and then you can make your choices from there. What's better? Which one would you like? But for now, this one's it. Savi, what's the price for this right now as it sits?
6,500.
6,500. Or best offer? Or are you firm?
Yeah. I mean, we always work, especially for repeat customers.
Yeah. So, and then another one of this, if you do buy this and you do shout out Mendy Imports, you will get a K plate with it. Along with the Vamos, you will get a K plate with the Vamos or this one if you buy from us and you shout out this video or you shout out Mendy Imports.